Hello and welcome to the Blind Pig podcast. I'm your host, Joe Honour, and we're here to break down all things British basketball. But before we dive in, we're on a journey to hit 500 subs, so make sure you take the time to smash the like button, hit subscribe and comment below. We're only 60 people away from hitting our goal. This week, we saw a huge shake-up in SLB standings and team trajectory. So let's jump right in and break it all down. This week in our weekly predictions, we took the underdogs and called on the Surrey 89ers to win twice. And they only went and bloody did it! Friday night, the Niners hosted the Bristol Flyers, and perhaps the coolest SLB nickname and chant was born. Bruno! Lily put on a masterclass beyond the arc, going 7 for 9 from deep. Nedes Cholovinskas chipped in going 3 for 6, and hell, even Andrew Lawrence managed to spy his old bones and chucked a three-pointer in the hoop as well. The signing of Surrey for Tyrin Lawrence has undoubtedly levelled up this squad, but it's also come with an increased maturity for Michael Graham, who's continuing to be more and more effective coming off the pick and roll, and has developed a really nice connection with Isaiah Small in that kind of high-low action that they run off the initial ball screen. Several of Isaiah Small's 5 assists came off that action and passing to Michael Graham down low. About a month ago, when we watched Surrey 89ers with a lead, I felt dead nervous. It's almost as though the team was trying to weather the storm and just lead enough, just to get to the end and get that W. But now the growth is really showing clearly as a team, and it's a team that feels confident with the lead and confident building a lead as well. That's why in this game, when they took the lead from the Bristol Flyers in the first quarter, they never looked back. On Sunday against Caledonia, Keno Lily didn't have the same impact. But to be honest, after going 7 from 9 from across the arc, just 2 days prior, you expect the scout to be on you a little bit more. But other key players in the starting lineup stepped up. Tyrin Lawrence had 30 points and looked like just what the doctor ordered, a confident and capable shooter, someone with real athleticism. And my eye test tells me when I look at him, he's not someone who's deferring to Ronnie Polite or Keno Lily. He's someone who's playing alongside them and looking for his shots. Now, there's still, growing room for the Niners. Particularly, they have to look at getting more consistent production from their bench. Against the Glads on Sunday, they only had 7 points from their bench, which is absolutely mental. But what they have done is created clear separation between themselves and the bottom of the table and 9th place. They've moved themselves 4 wins clear of 9th place and are actually only 2 wins away from sitting in 3rd. Exciting time to be a Surrey fan, although what lies ahead this weekend with Sheffield and Cheshire is a lot more tricky than what they've just got past. For their opponents, Bristol and Caledonia, the bad news continues to flow. Bristol lost again. And let's be really clear, losing is a habit, and it's a habit they need to kick. What they put up against Surrey was in line with their average championship stats, but it showed an inability from the squads to step up and really seize the game. This team has slid from being in second in the standings and having quite a firm grip on it, to be honest, to now sliding all the way down to 5th and could easily be 6th. We said on the podcast last week that if Bristol didn't get a win against Surrey, then they wouldn't get a win in January. And we're absolutely standing by that. Unfortunately, it's going to be a very dry January for Bristol fans. One ray of sunshine, though, was the return of fan favourite and skilled guard Evan Walsh. Evan Walsh played for the Bristol Flyers last year and was a huge part in their trophy run and had the first Super League basketball triple-double on record. That being said, he had a disappointing return to SLB against Surrey, immediately picking up an unsportsmanlike foul, then having to take the seat on a bench after picking up another cheap one. But Evan Walsh's return gives the Flyers some depth at a position that they desperately need it, and if the rotation is really well adjusted, it shouldn't be too much of a drop-off between when Evan Walsh steps into the game and Joachim sits. And let's be honest, this team can run and gun a little bit more, and that'll be exciting to see. A side note about this signing, though, is it shows how important young British stars in the league is and how important it can be for teams. The return tweet for Evan Walsh got 1,300 impressions on X. The last time Bristol had a tweet that was that successful, it was the 18th of August 2025, and the club were just announcing their EMBL schedule. And it really highlights how young British stars can help elevate teams and help them move more into the mainstream and bring new fans into the sports. But however bad it is in Bristol, it is worse over the border. With over half of their championship games played, the Glads have only got 3 measly wins. And I want to be balanced. I genuinely think the Glads are a far better team to root for this season. They've not had the media blunders and embarrassments, and the last 2 games seemingly have attracted a really good crowd at Play Sport Arena. But I am also ready to say here on the podcast that I've given up on the Caledonia Gladiators. I do not believe that this squad, as currently constructed, could take 8th place. With Surrey taking a step forward and levelling up, that feels even further away. Mathematically, Caledonia's best chance of overtaking someone is the Newcastle Eagles. And I just don't believe that's going to happen. I trust Newcastle way more to pick up key wins in the right moment than I do Caledonia. That's kind of depressing if you're a fan. You've lost both games in the trophy, you're out of the cup, you're not going to win the championship, and it's unlikely you make the playoffs. This isn't the NBA, you're not tanking for good draft odds here. There's a real chance that they're just going to continue to scrape along the bottom unless something changes. And listen, who am I to say, what that is? But I think they've got 9 months to figure it out. And genuinely, I would just start today. The level of imports that they're bringing in, I don't think propel them into the playoffs. Malcolm Del Pesh, LJ Bryant Jr., they're good, solid players, but they're not talented imports that take you from sitting in 9th to sitting in 8th. They're not single-handedly going to win you 2 or 3 wins in Super League basketball. And you know what? Maybe this was the plan from the start. Maybe this was a reset year. Just make sure as a franchise, we don't have any embarrassments, but instead, we step forward. We allow Johnny Bunyan to be a little bit more experienced, to get kind of reps in his head coaching role. They seem to have a lot of positive things going for them in Caledonia. Standout facilities. I really like the Caledonia Blues and the development they're doing. But damn, they have to form a better identity and get more talent on the court next year. Let me know below in the comments, do you think their season's over? And what should they do next year to be more successful? Last week, we did a deep dive into the women's trophy finals between the Sheffield Hatters and the Caledonia Gladiators. And we also did a deep dive into the men's finals between the London Lions and the Newcastle Eagles. Check out that video if you haven't already. We posed the question in our breakdown of actually what role might their imports play, and considering they have so many non-British players, who potentially wouldn't play in the SLB trophy? Well, that decision just got harder as they brought in 2 new high-level American players. Chandy Brown Jr. is a great versatile forward and has a really nice touch from outside. This is someone with NBA and G League reps. He was starting for the Atlanta Hawks alongside Trae Young just 4 years ago. They also brought in Nigel Hawkins, who is an absolutely deadly shooter with Euro Cup experience. First reaction though is, how freaking big is the London Lions roster? That's an insane amount for anyone to have. It's so big that they cannot all sit on the bench. That's the type of numbers we're talking about. There are so many. Let's just run through the injuries really quickly. We've got no Ovi Soko, not seen him for weeks. Joel Scott, he's out. He's going to be out for at least another month or 2. Mole Solowadi, he's looked great on the podcast. He sounds great, seems like a quality guy, but I've not seen him playing absolute donkeys. Ethan Price, he didn't look great after turning his ankle against Newcastle, but really hoping he's back this weekend. And the latest injury, Cameron McGusty, who by fans' reports has his hand wrapped and in a sling on the sidelines of London Lion games. My money says that McGusty is out for a significant period of time, and that's why they brought in these replacement imports. Although I think they'll play mainly in Euro Cup games, and I don't think we'll see too much of them domestically, unless Coach Sabonis is looking to kind of integrate them at pace. But the rich have got richer, and damn, it didn't look like it needed it on Friday night, where they absolutely dicked the Newcastle Eagles. If the London Lions are playing essentially their B team and can look that great against the Newcastle Eagles, it doesn't fill me with hope for the trophy finals. And I don't think that B team is meant as a derogatory term. Kieran Sandy is like the 8th, 9th man off the bench, and he absolutely crushed it on both ends of the floor in this game. Matt Goodwin looked like a really capable guard, stepping into his shots. He had a lot of confidence. He made a few silly turnovers, but I absolutely rate him. And ultimately, London not putting out some of their key players still were able to turn the defensive screws and absolutely crush Newcastle. Offensively is exactly what we talked about in our SLB trophy breakdown. They absolutely hunted Mitch Clark on the pick and roll, and Dean Williams exploded to the rim whenever he got a favourable matchup on the switch. I also think that another L for Newcastle came in Mark Stutzel showing his hand too soon. In the fourth quarter, they're down like a gazillion points, and he decides that now is the time to roll out a 1-3-1 zone. It completely bemuses the Lions, like they commit a couple of turnovers on the bounce. But if you're Newcastle and you're Mark Stutzel, genuinely, I believe you've shown your hand too soon. If I'm now Coach Sabonis, the first thing I'm doing when I get back to NCC is drilling the crap out of how to beat a 1-3-1 zone. And that was a powerful weapon that Mark Stutzel had in his bag, and it just got negated. Fingers crossed that Mark Stutzel has more tricks and more defensive game plan adjustments to try and stop what a lot of the Lions are doing offensively. Across the league, Sheffield also got red hot, and all of their scorers scored in all of the possible ways that they wanted. Dirk Williams had 17 points, 3 for 5 from deep. Rodney Chapman had 14 points, 10 assists. And Mervyn James had 19 points on 8 of 12 shooting. With Manchester Basketball's Gabe Olasheni out with injury, Matt Nicholson played a huge chunk of time, nearly 27 minutes in this game, and he got absolutely abused on the court. Straight up, this guy should not be out there against the Sheffield Sharks. It's not a good matchup for him. William Lee was his kryptonite and rendered Nicholson absolutely useless, and there was pick and pop threes raining down all night long, and it led to Lee shooting 3 to 5 from deep. Usually, at least Nicholson provides some rim protection, but not against Nick Kern, who blasted by him on every play on his way to 17 points and 7 of 9 shooting. In this league, with these athletes, I don't think Nicholson's the one, and Manchester desperately needs the return of Ossaboyan and Kane Henry. It just can't come quick enough for them to get back to full strength and to get back to some of their versatility and switchability that they had earlier this season. Quick stat of the night, shout out to James Bryce, who remains perfect when stepping into head coach duties. Ben Thomas, of course, was serving his one-game suspension for a post-game scuffle that happened between him and head coach Rob Paternostro for the Leicester Riders. Check us out on X if you want a breakdown of what we thought of the suspension. In short, though, I thought it was bullshit. I thought Ben Thomas should have got 5 points. Rob Paternostro should have got 5 points. I understand people who say that he touched him, he made physical contact, therefore it should be worse. I've been critical of Ben Thomas in the past, but you know what? I actually genuinely rate him for this. Yeah, another coach is getting in the face of your assistant. I think it's fair game to push them out of the way. Going back to James Bryce though, he took the mantle and led the team to a victory. Not a flawless victory that sometimes you get, but a win nonetheless. I also thought we saw the best possible version of Michael Diggins in this game, and here's hoping to him keeping more of that form. I think him being able to be defensively strong, but also attacking, being a lob threat, being very vertical, adds a much needed element for the Cheshire Phoenix. We'll be back this week with more British basketball content, so make sure you smash the like button, comment below and subscribe. Peace!